Hello everyone, and welcome to this getting started video for the Crest Ocean system. This video is targeted at the scriptable render pipeline versions of Crest. Those are the ones that are on the asset store. At the moment, this is showing the LWRP version. That will soon be the URP version, and soon there'll be a HDRP version as well. And the alternative to these versions is the version that's freely available on the GitHub, which is for the built-in render pipeline. But yeah, as I said, this is targeted towards the scriptable render pipelines. And yeah, I'm going to be going through the process of setting it up, and I'm going to start from absolute scratch, so from step 0. I've just created a new Unity project. I'm using 2019.3 here, but a lot of this will apply to other versions. So the first prerequisite for the SRP or scriptable render pipeline versions of Crest is to actually have the scriptable render pipeline installed of choice. So for 2019.3, we want the universal render pipeline. That's the one that I'm going to target now. So I just need to go to the package manager, find universal render pipeline, and yeah, just grab the latest of that. Okay guys, the installation of the universal render pipeline is finished, and I also did a restart of Unity. I highly recommend restarting Unity after installing new packages, changing the render pipeline. I hear all the time people getting strange results like pink materials and etc., and just a restart of Unity often sorts it out. So now we're going to prepare to actually install Crest. The first thing I'm going to do is actually set up the render pipeline. This will be covered in the Unity documentation, but I'll do it quickly here. The first thing we want to do is create a pipeline asset, and this is kind of the overall configuration for the render pipeline, and I've selected universal render pipeline here. One thing that Crest wants is the depth and opaque textures if you want to have transparency in the ocean. So if you want to see the ground or the seafloor through the ocean surface, it needs to be able to access the depth and opaque textures for the scene. And that shadow distance is really short, so I'm going to enlarge that a bunch. And yeah, so now to actually turn on the render pipeline, we go over to the project settings and go to graphics, and then there's this field here that will accept a render pipeline asset. So if we just drag our new asset there, that does it, and that should activate the render pipeline. There's one other thing that I do is I recommend always targeting the linear color space, not gamma. I know that a lot of platforms want gamma, but the default Crest materials and etc. have been tuned for linear, so it's just a good idea to set it to linear. Okay, so with that I think we're ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and actually import Crest at this point. So usually if you get it from the asset store, to actually install it, you would head over to the asset store and go to the Crest page and then click install from there. But I'm going to use a local package that I have. Okay, so once I click import into project, I should get a dialog like this, which allows me to select what content to import. Crest is broken up into kind of what I call the core Crest files, and then the example content in these two folders. And I also provide example render pipeline assets here, but we've created our own in this video, so I'll probably end up just ignoring those. And there's two PDFs here, which have the README and the user guide, which has the documentation. So it's worth noting that because the Crest examples are not absolutely required for Crest functionality, they're mainly there just to illustrate how to use Crest, and they showcase a bunch of features. But I can really select which example content I want to import, and it's worth noting that the Pirate Cove scene is the vast majority of the content, so if you don't need that, it might be worth not selecting that to import. But yeah, for now I'm just going to go ahead and import everything. Okay, so the import is finished, so let's go into the example scenes, and let's jump straight to Pirate Cove. So that's the most complex scene, example scene that we have. So if I just open up Pirate Cove Day, this has just the game objects for Pirate Cove Day. If I want to see the environment, it's in the sub scenes folder here, so I can additively load that if I can remember how. Open scene additive, there we go. So if I select, I don't know, one of these objects and press F to focus, I'm just going to let it build shaders. Just another reminder, if you see crazy looking results, just give Unity a restart. That usually sorts it out. But it looks like it's all loading up, and it looks like it's all there. So now there'll be a few setup steps. Let me just press play and see what happens as the first step. So we see an odd result, and we see an error in the log, and it's asking for a layer called terrain in the project. So the Crest example content, it assumes that there's a layer called terrain. Unfortunately, we can't install this layer into people's projects, so it needs to be added manually. So one way to get to the layer settings is to click any game object and just say add layer, which will bring us to this project settings. Usually would have post-processing say as one layer, and then I'm going to add terrain as layer number 9. And if I stop and just check that the terrain is on that layer, okay, it's because it was in play mode. It didn't save my setting, obviously, so let's try that again. Now if I click that, just double check that the terrain that I have is in that layer, and that will actually inform the depth of the ocean, so it controls the shallow water and the wave attenuation. So if I press play again with that, at this point there's no errors and it appears to be working. So that's all set up really. So it's really just setting up the renderer and adding the shadowing feature that's required if the shadow feature is needed in the scene, and then adding the terrain layer is required by the Crest example content. So that's as much as I wanted to cover in this video. I'd recommend just browsing through the example scenes. There's a few different types of scenes with different features in them, a bunch of scenes with boats and buoyancy demonstrated, and some more advanced features with the whirlpool where there's a bit of custom shape of the ocean surface. But yeah, I'd encourage you to have a browse and play with the examples. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.